This is Modern Mindset, the show that picks the brains of the world's leading minds to help you unlock yours. I'm your host, Adam Cox, and joining me today, we have New York Times bestselling author Christy Whitman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. I'm so excited for this conversation.
No, I'm looking forward to it. So first of all, give us a bit of background, because we spoke just before we started recording of 25 years of kind of studying the kind of stuff that people, normally just kind of peruse and get a very superficial level of. Give us a bit of background about you and how you became a bestselling author.
So I graduated college at ASU, Arizona State University in the States, and I moved to Chicago in seek of, trying to create a career for myself, make my own money, have my own independence. And I literally did all that. I within a very short period of time, I created everything I accomplished, and I was yet feeling really unfulfilled and had this feeling of, okay, I've done all this, I've created all this. These are the things that I thought were supposed to make me happy, and I'm not. So what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Right. And it was this feeling of, is this all there is? Right. Is it about accomplishing stuff and putting money in the bank? And then, is this it? And so that hunger and that thirst that I had to find a deeper connection within myself led me to move from Chicago to Northern California, where I moved for a guy that I was dating long distance. And within a month of moving there, we broke up. But I was introduced to one person who was my hairdresser, and her name was Janine. And as she's cutting my hair, what I felt I was missing, she had. She had such a fulfillment, such a space, such a sense of joy about her. And being as blunt as I am, I just said to her after she's cutting and coloring my hair and all that, I said, okay, what do you do? And she just started laughing because she knew exactly what I meant. And she said, I meditate. Now, Adam, at that point in time, again, 25 years ago, nobody I knew meditated. It wasn't a concept we heard about. My only paradigm inside of my mindset was a, guy with a big, long white hair, with a big white beard, sitting in a white coat on top of a hill, oming, in yogi position. That's what I thought of meditation. That's what my mind pulled up as a picture. And it completely shifted the paradigm. And so she told me that, she really has come to understand joy, and really is practicing with her energy and her light body. And I said, can I have her phone number? Because she was telling me about her meditation teacher. So as I was leaving the salon, I dialed her up and find myself at her house. Now, this was a very weird thing, right? Because it was very new age, very woo-woo, very clinky, clanky music, incense, candles, angel statues. I was like, what am I doing here? And so we sat on the floor on a cushion. And the first thing that she said to me was, you create your own reality. Now, that might sound like common now, but 25 years ago, in the state that I was in, it was not. And when she said that to me, it was like something just opened in me, something that was deeper within myself that I had never accessed yet. And I was just like, yes. And then my mind kicked in and went, how? And she said, well, by your thoughts, what you're thinking, you're either repelling things from you or attracting things to you. And again, this huge opening, my thoughts. What? I was like, I knew I could change my mind. I don't want to wear that. I want to wear this. I don't want to go here. I want to go there. But my thoughts, or my thoughts, just my thoughts. And I said, well, how? My mind kept kicking in. Like, I want to know the how. What are you talking about? So she gave me an assignment. She wouldn't tell me the how. She gave me an assignment. She goes, I just want you to observe. Since this is so new to you, you've never just sat and observed your thoughts before. Just go home for a week, write down, think about, observe your thoughts. And I could not believe how negative I was. It didn't matter what I accomplished. It didn't matter how great I did something. It didn't matter how much money I created or how many friends I had, or if that's going on inside of my head, it was no wonder I couldn't be satisfied or fulfilled in any aspect of my life. I was constantly criticizing myself. I mean, I'd walk by a mirror and without even realizing I was doing it, I would have a good 10 cut downs just by walking by the mirror, you know? And then, of course, with other people, with God, with the universe, I mean, it was just a negative neighborhood in there. And as soon as I started shifting one little thought, things started opening and I started seeing my life change. Well, oh my gosh, this became like, I just want to know everything that there is to know about this mindset thing, about this energy thing. And so I started my own practice of meditation, and I started attracting more information, learning about universal laws and learning about energy and vibration. And it wasn't like you could go on the internet back then and go, law of attraction, and then all this information would come up. I mean, it was literally like a step by, someone would hand me a book, right? Someone would hand me a tape to listen to. I mean, it was like I was literally pulling forth and calling forth this information. And I remember at one point going, God, it'd be so nice to know what is the literally the manifestation formula. And then it was dropped into my lap. And I remember, wait, I asked for something and it comes. This is incredible, right? How is this part of the equation? So my quest, my asking just kept bringing me more and more information, more teachers, more books. And I became pretty masterful, as much as you can be within 5 years. And all of a sudden, one night I was doing my meditation and I had my cover of my book appear, and it said Christy Whitman, Perfect Pictures. And I thought, well, that's great. I haven't written a book. I don't know what that's all about. And I went to bed that night, 1:05 in the morning. I was woken up with this voice that was just chattering in my head, and I couldn't like roll over. I couldn't stop it. So I got up half asleep, took pen to paper, and just started naturally what they call scribing, just letting information come and download through me. And I didn't pay much attention to it, rolled back into my bed, went back to sleep. When I got up in the morning, I saw what I wrote and I went, okay, that did not come from me. That was not from my mind. So I just kind of thought, all right, that's interesting. That helped me for today. Great. Now I'm getting the downloads instead of getting it from other people, right? But 7 nights in a row that happened. And after about the 6th or 7th night, I had met a woman who was an author, and I reached out to her and I said, how do you get a book published? And she said, go online and find a literary agent. So I literally typed in literary agent, and this man's picture popped up. He was a publisher and literary agent. I didn't know how the publishing world worked. He told me to submit my manuscript. He accepted it. It was a print on demand book. And so after my book came out, my family and friends, who were not my target audience at all, didn't get it, right? They were, I was like, well, how else do I get this information out there? So I started speaking spiritual bookstores and churches, and people then started asking me, will you coach me? Now, I mean, this is 20 years ago, Adam. I didn't know about life coaching. So that same moment of that paradigm shift of the guy, the guru on the, on the stone sitting there meditating, I thought of like a football coach or like a cheerleading coach, and they had to educate me of what life coaching was, which it was such a young industry at that point. And so I started having people just call me on the phone, and I would walk them through shifting their mindset, changing their energy around things. And they would be emailing me or call me back going, oh my God, I met him, or I got the job, or, all these things. And I love the process from start to finish of coaching. And so I was a pharmaceutical rep at the time, and I didn't have much love or passion for that. I made good money, but I pursued my career as a coach. And then about 15 years went full time in my own business.
Amazing. And that kind of touches on this kind of concept of fulfillment, because I think there's that quote, isn't there, about fulfillment? Sometimes we're so busy climbing the ladder of success, it's too late to figure out it's leaning against the wrong wall. And it seemed like for you, that was fairly early on in your life that you had that intuition, you had that kind of sense of, well, hold on a minute, I'm doing well financially. I should be quote unquote happy here, and yet I'm not. And then that kind of led to it. Do you think that the effort that you put into kind of discovering some of these principles actually made a difference in terms of your ownership of them? Because you're right now, people could find out what you found out over many months, probably in a few days. Do you think the fact that it was delayed and you had to kind of invest effort to acquire it actually made you more committed to that journey?
Absolutely. It became literally a commitment to a new way of being. It wasn't as easy as picking up a book and having all the secrets to life in a book. I mean, I had to, and I was hungry for it. I was really hungry for it. And I had to figure out how to apply it. And sometimes it didn't work, right? So I had to figure out, wait, what works and what doesn't work. And now I get to share well, this is what I did, right? And this is, I even talk about one of my books, Quantum Success, how I did an experiment. And I mentioned it in my new book, The Desire Factor, how I did an experiment with work because I was having so much success doing just a lot of action. And then when I brought the energy and the mindset into it, oh my gosh, my business just completely took off. So if mindset and energy is that powerful, how important is action? Right. So I did these kind of experiments because nobody else had. And I wanted to know, like, how much effort do we need to put in and how much mindset do we do? What's the balance there? Right. So what you're saying is absolutely true. I mean, I had to figure out there's lots of laws, right? But what are the ones that are so essential for us to live by? One of them that I really came to in my 5 years of practicing it is a lot of people talk about law of attraction, right? But if most people know about a universal law, it's law of attraction because the secret, and lots of people talk about there's law of attraction experts. I'm one of them. But the thing is that law of attraction, and it's funny because the way people talk about it is, why can't I get law of attraction to work? No, law of attraction is always working. It's us that has to adjust and fine tune ourselves, because law of attraction is always, it never deviates. It's universal for man or woman living in Australia or the United States, doesn't matter. It's always giving more of what we're giving out. So it's not that law of attraction is not working. We have to adjust something within ourselves so we align with what we do desire. So law of attraction can bring us more of the same.
I think also with the law of attraction, it becomes very appealing to those people that haven't necessarily gone through the journey that you've gone through. So fairly early on, you started taking responsibility for your thoughts and for your life. You create your reality. Whereas a lot of people that I think, maybe they see The Secret or they read a law of attraction book and they think, oh, I can just manifest stuff without fully taking responsibility for the life that they want to create. And then naturally, when these things don't manifest, because they haven't fully taken responsibility, there's if the locus of control is outside of them, it doesn't work, rather than what do I need to change to attract more of the stuff that I want? And I think that's an important distinction that you went through, because you're right, 25 years ago, there wasn't a lot about personal responsibility. There wasn't, personal development. I think it was, you had a bit from Brian Tracy and a bit from Charles Schwartz saying, executitis and taking responsibility, and a bit of early Tony Robbins stuff. But there wasn't a lot out there to really get people saying, right, if it's going to happen, I'm going to make it happen. Did that give you a bit of a superpower, going back 25 years ago, when you had a different perspective to the vast majority of people at that time?
Oh yeah, I remember when I was a pharmaceutical rep, and I was in my I think about 10 people were in my district. And so every quarter we would get together and we all sold 3 medications. And it got to a point where everybody in my district were just like, just give it to her, because I was winning bonus after bonus. I was winning all the top awards for all 3 of the medications. And they were all looking at me like, what are you doing? You're taking away all the rewards, all the bonus money. What are you doing? Right. And finally, I had one of my teammates who was really smart. She's like, okay, give it up. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing that nobody else is doing? And I'm like, I'll coach you. It's law of attraction. When I would say that to anybody else that asked me, they'd be like, what? You're insane. What, you're gonna wishful think it? I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. Right. But the one person, she actually ended up being my very first paid coaching client. Her name was Letitia. And she goes, I am at the bottom of the entire sales force in the entire country. Can you please just help me learn what you know? And I did. And within, I think it was 12 weeks, she went from the bottom all the way to the top. She was in the 15th percentile of the whole entire country. So
Mm.
I did. I felt like they were all looking at me like, what are you doing?
But for me, I have kind of like this kind of almost kind of diametric, I jump from kind of like really being a fan of law of attraction to thinking, come on, that's a bit of nonsense. And for me, I kind of think, well, there is truth to it, because definitely you see the principles of the reticular activating system as you prime yourself. That neurology is there to scan for things that are kind of aligned with a goal or something that you value. And then there's the element of, well, clearly a business plan is the law of attraction. You're putting in writing what you want to, attach. But then there's the element of the frequency and the vibrations and the quantum stuff. And I kind of think, well, if I was going to, trust someone to, let's say, land a probe on Mars, I'm going to rely on scientists, not law of attraction experts. What's your take on the critics or the skeptics of law of attraction?
Well, that's just it, is I think that people think it's separate, right? Because there are some law of attraction people that don't have it very grounded. I know many that are like, oh, I'm an expert and I've been practicing for a couple of years, right? And it's like it's all self what declaration. It's like a declaration. I'm an expert, right? You declare that and you live into it. But when you really get to understand that everything we're talking about here is energy.
Mm.
And we know from modern modern science, quantum physics, we know from the sciences, right, that everything is energy. Crack open an atom, what do you have? You have energy. And so we come from that conversation that everything is energy and that all energy carries a certain vibration, right? Joy has a very different vibration than anger, right? So just even looking at emotions, they all have very different frequencies and energies. Having a positive thought, you can measure this now with scientific stuff, like, they can see the frequency, the gigahertz that go out with a positive thought versus a negative thought. So what we're talking about is scientific. It is scientific because it's all energy. It's all about vibration. And if we really want to look at how this works, it's like we are both physical. Yeah. I mean, we're matter, right? Just like the desk and the computer, these are physical things. But under all things is energy. So if we're physical, we're also energy. I mean, what's beating our hearts right now as we're talking? You and I didn't even talk about taking a breath, but you and I have been taking a breath the whole time we've been talking. That's something that's doing it for us. It's growing my hair and my nails, and and it's digesting our food. It's doing all this stuff that's life, which is energy. And so we are energy receivers. We have 10 trillion cells that have receptor sites that all have to be receiving in energy. So those like little cell cups, if you will, need to be filled with energy or they wouldn't be alive. So we are energy receivers, we're energy containers, and then we're energy transmitters. And what we transmit out in the way of what we say, what we think, what we perceive or expect or feel or believe, right? The actions that we take, all of those are signals that go out. And law of attraction, like a big old mirror, like a big old boomerang, just gives us what we are asking for based on the vibration that we give out.
Mm.
So how is law of attraction not scientific, and how is science not law of attraction? It's all vibration. It's universal information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say that with an element of devil's advocate there, because for years I've been having vision boards and writing down goals
Sure.
and all this kind of stuff. So for me, I do believe that if you're going to increase the likelihood of having what you desire, it's good to have clarity. It's good to have a plan. It's good to increase the probability by doing certain things. But equally, knowing that you can't be responsible for every variable, there is an element of luck and chance. And I'm quite happy to throw the dice out there, and sometimes it kind of goes my way. I think it's a good way of doing it. Do you think that actually a lot of what makes the law of attraction work is the placebo effect, is this self-fulfilling prophecy element? Because if someone truly believes in the law of attraction, their resourcefulness, their intent, their kind of ability to back up what they want with action is actually going to mean that the very thing that they want, they do the right things, they create the right opportunities, which then means that, fair enough, they've proven the law of attraction is right. Because, to what extent is it Dumbo's feather? I don't know if you remember the Disney cartoon Dumbo. Is it Dumbo's feather?
Well, that's just it, is to understand that we create from our beliefs.
Mm.
So it's not whether we believe that there's a law of attraction or we not believe that there's a law of attraction. We're creating from our beliefs. It's like the conversation that I really shifted, now I now talk about a lot, is the belief in lack and limitation. I was a big believer in lack and limitation. That's how I was raised. I look at my almost 85 and almost 89 mom and dad, and they are very much mired in what they can't do, what they're worried about, if they can worry about something, they're gonna, I laugh and kid because my dad, when I was a kid, he believed in Murphy's Law, that if something's going to go wrong, it will, right? And he
Mm-hmm.
had those posters up in his office whereas I believe in universal laws. And so I believed for a long time in not enoughness. And so because I believed that, that's what I was attracting, right? I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel like my partner ever showed up enough. I didn't, you know what I mean? It was like the lens, because of my belief system was there, is what I attracted, is what I created, is the action I took, is the risk that I took, right? But then when I shifted everything to believe in a more abundance mentality, to have an abundance mindset, that everything is working out for me, that there's more than enough to go around, that if I thought about it, it came from pure potentiality that wants to create through me, that there's more than enough to go around, that there isn't just a small pie, that, you know, it's like, and it's not even my own individual pie. I got to that point at one point where I was like, had a panic attack. And I was like, what, you know, knowing what I know about energy, and like, what's going on? Why am I having a panic attack? You've used it all up. I'm like, well, used what all up? This is the inner voice as I'm getting a massage one day telling me I've used up my success. And I was like, that's ludicrous. I don't have just a pie. I have a whole bakery. I can make as many pies as I want.
Mm-hmm.
But busting those old beliefs, those old paradigms, that's what then allowed me to create my reality, because we create from our beliefs. So what we believe in, if we want to believe in lack, you'll see evidence of it. If we want to believe in abundance, someone once told me that this is an abundance universe. That felt good to me. So I believed it. And you know what? Because I believe it, I create it.
Mm. And that's the thing with beliefs, you know, are they useful or not? You know, and it doesn't really matter if they're true, you know, if it's useful to believe it, because a lot of people believe things that aren't true, you know,
Yeah.
and that limits their life. So if you can believe anything, why not believe things that are more useful and helpful? And as a hypnotherapist, 80% of what I do with my clients is shifting limiting beliefs to more useful beliefs, and that actually has a massive impact on their lives. So although I'm kind of you know, pushing a few buttons there, you know, it's more of the conversation of how
Of course.
important are beliefs and that kind of stuff.
No,
Your
I love
latest,
that. Sorry to interrupt you. I love that, because you are playing the devil's advocate. You're getting into the minds of the people that are listening to this. I know you believe that, you know, but it's like you're looking at different sides, and I think that's so important for someone that does what you do, to look at both sides, because you've got listeners that are on both sides. So I appreciate
yeah,
that.
and you know, just as a quick anecdote there, I remember being 15 years old, speaking to my dad about, you know, he was saying, well, what job do you want to do in the future? And I remember saying, well, actually, I'm more interested in, you know, in setting up a business and being a business owner. And within seconds, he said, well, you do know 95% of businesses fail within the first few years. And I remember thinking, yeah, but I want to be that 5%. You know, I want
Yeah.
to kind of have that business. And you're right. The mindset creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where you either close doors or open doors. Doesn't mean that anything's going to be easy because you believe it, but it creates the possibility, and that I think is quite an exciting thing.
Right.
Your latest book, The Desire Factor, where did the concept come from? Because I think we're in a world right now where the advertising industry, the marketing industry wants to make everything desirable. And a lot about creating desire in the traditional marketing method is based on the idea of lack or deficiency. Compared to someone else, they're more beautiful, they're more successful. You know, they have this car, you don't. To what extent would you say desire is a positive thing? And where did the inspiration for your book come from?
Well, nothing changes without a desire. Nothing's born without a desire. I mean, just look at this whole entire universe. For the divine to want to create the stars and the planets and all that, it needed to have a desire in order to do it. When you think about, from you and I sitting here, your mom and your dad have had to have a desire to get together and have sex, or at least have a baby, right? That desire brought you to the table. It brought me to the table, right? Brought us to the party. And so desire is the start of everything. When you were, say, 15 years old, you had that desire to start your own business. If you hadn't had that desire, how does a business get started? You have to have a desire. Desire is the birthplace of all things. There's a difference between a limitation, kind of pain body desire, versus a true divine desire. Divine desires are ones that land. It's like we get to be the receiver of this beautiful plant, and we go, or the seed, and we go, oh, I would love to own my own business. Oh my gosh, wow, I would love to travel there. I would love to have this. I would love to experience that. And we feel the excitement of it. We feel moved by it, right? And there's something that just opens up in us. That's very different than a desire born of lack. Well, I need to prove myself, so I desire to be better than that person. So let me strive and drive so that I can be better, right? Or because I don't feel good about myself, maybe if I go get a handbag, or if I get a nicer car, or then I can get the ladies, or then I can feel like I'm popular enough, or ooh, then I can be like the Kardashians, or now I'll be accepted into this group. That's not a desire that comes from the divine. They call that the ego, which I don't like to say that, because we all have our egos, we all have our personalities. It's a part of the ego that's been imprinted, that's in lack and limitation, struggle. It's not the unlimited part of us, it's the limited part of us, right? So it's the desire of something's missing, got to go get something in order to fulfill me, right? Versus I'm fulfilled, I feel so good. What do I want to create? I
Mm.
give this example of my dog. My dog was like a desire factor for my kids and myself. And my husband was clear. He didn't want a dog. Right. And so when it comes down to it, we were talking to him and I'm like, we all really want a dog. What kind of dog would you want if we were to get a dog? And so he starts talking, I want a bigger dog instead of a little dog. But he says to me, baby, our lives are so great. There's nothing missing. Why do we need to go and get a dog? And I said, well, that's the wrong way of thinking. We're not wanting a dog because there's something missing or lacking. We're wanting a dog because it's going to even add more to the love and more to the laughter and more to the enjoyment that we already have in our family. So it wasn't a need to fill something. It was a desire to expand into more. And that's definitely what my dog Jax has represented to this family.
Mm.
So when a desire is not to hurt or harm somebody else, not to do revenge over, not to try to get something for something, when it's coming purely from a place of, oh, I would love to do that. I would love to be that. I'd love to experience that. It's because the divine that's breathing us gave us that desire, and we learn how to be the co-creator with that desire. We get the benefit of it. We get to live in the house, drive the car, have the money in the bank, whatever it is. But the divine in us loves who we get to become in the process of it.
Mm. Yeah, there's a big difference, isn't there, between gratification and feeling other emotions like pride or joy or accomplishment. And for me, I think that also applies to materialistic things. If you're doing it because you don't feel very good, let's say you rewind back to when you were a pharmaceutical rep and you've got all this money in the bank, but you don't really feel fulfilled. And then you buy a nice handbag or you buy some nice clothes and it temporarily makes you feel good. That can create that
Right.
addictive cycle where you keep doing that, but it's gratification. Whereas if you're, let's say, pursuing a career, an author, you're making an impact on the world, and then you buy whatever you want, has a different meaning. And for me, I've always, where possible, bought things not for the thing itself, but for the meaning that I can
Yes,
link to it, if that makes sense. Because
it
then each
does.
time I kind of use it, it's a reminder of, it's kind of like what you said before about like owning the bakery rather than having the cake. If you see something, even if it's quite an expensive thing, and you think, well, I created that from nothing, and therefore I can create a lot more of that, it's an anchor for abundance rather than a feeling of, well, that made me feel temporarily better and now I have to get something else. What's the pitfalls do you think that people make when it comes to desire?
Well, the biggest thing is most people talk themselves out of it, or like you're saying, they're impatient with it because they want it now, 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 right? It's like instant gratification. I share one of the reasons why this book came through me, and the desire factor is like all of us have a different desire factor. Desire factor meaning that thing that moves you forward, that things that gets you in your creative juices, right? And so for me, on many occasions, it happened to be a handbag. And so you're absolutely right. Back in the day, before I knew this information, I was coming from lag, I would buy a handbag just to try to impress somebody or to be like somebody else, right? But I remember when this book came through me, I had gone when I first met my husband, but he wasn't my husband at the time, he was my boyfriend. My mom and dad and I had gone on this 2-week trip to Italy and gone into like Lake Como and Florence and Venice and Positano. And And so here we are in Venice, and this is the first time I had ever seen shops like Dolce and Gabbana and Fendi and Chanel and Valentino. And I was like, oh my gosh. Well, I had just started my business at the time. There was no way I could ever justify or even try to stretch getting a purse like that. But on that literal island of Venice, I said to my husband, I said, I'm going to come back here one day and I'm going to buy whatever purse I want because that's going to be my measurement of success. And so here it was like 7 years later, and people will go, 7 years? It took you 7 years to go buy a purse? No, I chose because I went back to Venice 7 years later. I was with my mom and my dad, my 2 children, and my husband. I had purchased the trip for everybody, including my parents, first class accommodations. And here I was. I got to look back and go, wow, in those 7 years, I've created a multi-million-dollar business. I've helped transform so many people's lives. I mean, the impact that I'm making and the the money that I've made from that, it's like I'm celebrating that. So I went into Venice and went into shops with my husband and saw this beautiful little Dolce & Gabbana purse. I bought it. It's sitting in my closet. But this story, that purse represents success. It represents the journey I went on. But here's the thing, when I went back on that cruise ship, right, I'm sitting there looking at this purse and I'm in my glory of this purse and all that it means and all that I've created, including my family, since that first time I went to Venice. And it was like, but that's so materialistic. And I went, "Ugh." and then my book came through me. It's like everything here on the planet is materialistic, is material, including us. We're material, we're physical, right? And so it's like we've been based on lack and limitation, shamed to think, well, you can have that, but you can't have that. That's okay to have, and that's not. If you have that, you're materialistic, you're shallow, right? And we don't allow ourselves to have permission to just say, okay, wait, where's this desire coming from? Is it because I feel like I did with the dog? Do I feel like I'm lacking something, therefore I'm wanting to overcompensate for something? Nope, all good here. So that purse for me wasn't about, I don't feel good enough, and so I need to go get a Dolce and Gabbana bag. It was like, I'm celebrating the success that I've created. And I told myself, I made myself a promise all those years ago that I was going to come back. That'd be even worse. If I went back to Venice, I saw all these shops and then I wouldn't allow myself to have a bag because that's too materialistic.
Mm.
I've now lied to myself.
Mm.
I have no symbolisms for success. Go ahead, Adam.
Absolutely. It's the symbolism, it's the meaning. And I think it's also a part of a life's journey. Like you can see the version of you that you become based on the decisions that you make. And for me, it wasn't bags, it was watches, and I remember being 19 years old, seeing this watch that I really liked, trying it on. And my friends at the time were like, they're going to think you're so cheap trying on a watch that you're not going to buy. And then I bought the exact same watch, a few years later. But it was at the point where I was buying it, not because I had to have it, but because I could afford it, a much better watch than that. But it was because it was the watch that I tried on at that point when I couldn't afford it, that I then kind of had it. And there's a weird thing, like when you start accumulating certain things that some people would label materialistic, for those people that also have those for the right reasons, they don't see it as materialistic. They almost see it as almost like a subtle clue that you're in the secret club, that you believe the same thoughts and you kind of have the same kind of ideas, that there is a lot of abundance in the world.
Yes.
Because anyone that spends, tens of thousands of pounds on a watch, they don't do it because they need to tell the time. They do it because of what it represents, not the thing itself.
Exactly.
If the biggest failure that people make when it comes to desire is either not giving themselves permission or being critical of it, or doing it too fast, in terms of getting into debt, how do people do it right? If you were offering someone one tip to kind of actually turn their desires into reality, from your years of experience, how do people get to do it well, get to do it right?
I'd say go by the desire factor because there's 7 principles in the book, and it's like a padlock, right? It's like if you have a lock, a combination lock, 24, 12, 16, and you try to go 16, 24, if you don't put them in the right order, you're not up and opening up that lock, right? So the counsel who I channel, who now I understand who I wrote this book with, because I now channel them, and I've been channeling by scribing. All of my books have been a channeled book. when they did it, when they wrote it out, it was these combination in this exact order. And the first one is what you talk about here on your podcast, on your show, is alignment with your mindset. It's really being able to have that type of mindset that is alignment with what you want. And that is first and always most important, because if your thoughts and the words that you say and the perspectives that you hold, the beliefs that we've been talking about, the emotions, if all of those are negative and in worry, and you're taking action towards your desires, you're going to have split energy.
Mm.
And with split energy, it's kind of like trying to water a garden with a bunch of holes. The water's not going to the direction you're wanting it to. It's spilling out in all the other places.
Interesting. And it's interesting you say that, just as a hypnotherapist, hearing like how you channel these kind of almost like a committee of different kind of ideas and kind of thoughts. It kind of strikes me that you've got parts of your unconscious mind that have got access to more wisdom that you can kind of necessarily kind of have at your fingertips. So you just kind of, you've become the conduit, of all that wisdom and experience, which I think is a fantastic tool that you've been able to do, because not everyone can do that. If someone's inspired by what you've said, if they like the idea of giving themselves permission or kind of unlocking their desires and being able to have more of what they want in life, where's the best place to find out either more information on you or to get your book?
You can go to thedesirefactor.com. And when you purchase the book, you actually get bonuses right away to help you start implementing it while you're waiting for it to arrive. And then in May, we're going to actually have a live course. It's a 4-week course. This is like a $900 value with all the bonuses for buying a $15 book. But in May, the live courses will start and we go through each of the principles in the book. So it's thedesirefactor.com.
There we go, desirefactor.com. Christy, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you so much for what you're doing to help people get a better mindset.
Fantastic. And to you at home, thanks for joining me on Modern Mindset. See you again soon for more.